What if we are going to see Bitcoin at 500,000 by the end of next year? That's the thesis of Chamath Palihapitiya, a huge investor of the Silicon Valley, and it will be interesting to analyze his thesis and see how we can apply that to manage our portfolio the best way possible. And at the end of the day, get more Solana. First thing first, make sure to follow Chamath on Twitter. He is really active and push content on the timeline all the time. He was the early investors in Facebook and manages billions with social capital, and also co-hosts the All In podcast. In the All In podcast, he shares his analysis from Bitcoin price action post-halving.
Since we're in the don't trust anybody and have your own sovereignty, and we're in the libertarian moment, let's go to our crypto correspondent. It's Crypto Corner with Chamath. So it's part of my production company. I'm now doing Crypto Corner with Chamath. That would be
You are sitting at the table of like people worth multiple billions easily.
Next week's called open.
I thought it would be good to talk about crypto for a couple of reasons. One is because we just had the halving at the end of April.
Did that happen?
The halving is where, just for folks that don't know, the way that Bitcoins are created is by solving these complex mathematical algorithms that take a lot of time and energy and money. And when you solve it, you get rewarded.
And with the halving, the supply of Bitcoin is getting cut by half. So there is only like 10.5 million Bitcoin available. It's not true. It's a joke, okay?
With some number of Bitcoin. And roughly every 4 years, that reward gets cut in half. It's called a halving. And this week, I saw somebody who reminded me all of this. And I just want to give this guy a proper shout out. So his name is Wences Casares. And Wences in Silicon Valley, I would say, really was agent zero of Bitcoin. He was the one in 2000.
Can you imagine you are connected to the guys that will introduce Bitcoin in the Silicon Valley, which is like the center of the tech world, and you can talk with that guy? That's another level of connection and knowledge and leverage that you can use to reach billions, literally. And that's really impressive.
2010, that introduced it to me. I remember he reminded me of the story, actually. We were at Oran's Hummus, and he's like, he's Argentinian, he's a great, so I'm going to try to copy. He's like, Chamath, you need to buy the Bitcoin. So I heard the story. I fell in love with it. I remember I called my family office. I'm like, buy me 1 million of these things. And he was like, or $1 million worth. And he was like, are you crazy? And I was like, no, there's just a little appetizer. We'll get to the main course. Anyways,
1 million appetizer. Let's go. That's what's up. Buy my NFT, bro.
He's done a phenomenal job of understanding and proselytizing Bitcoin. And I want to thank him because he really put me onto this. But he mentioned something to me when I saw him a couple of days ago, which is you should really look at the pattern of Bitcoin after a halving. And so I was really curious. And so I had a guy on my team, Quentin, put this together. So Nick, let's go to the first page. So why is this interesting?
Social Capital is his fund. And he has a team to analyze all of the investment that they're going to do. And that's what we are going to discover right now.
So here's a little Bitcoin price analysis for you guys. So there's been a couple of halving cycles that have happened. And I asked him to go back and look at the price performance 1 month after a halving, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, and 18 months after a halving. And what you notice is that there are these moments initially where essentially when you go through a Bitcoin halving, people are sort of reassessing what's happening and they're trying to figure it out. That's sort of what I would say happens in the first month and roughly what also happens in the first 3 months.
So we are here right now. We are in the first 1 and 3 months. Summer will be in the 3 months. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen in the next 6 months. But I personally expect nothing going crazy. But what's going to be fun is going to be like with the 12 months. Definitely with the ETF one, it could fly hard. So yeah, let's see what happens next year.
Within 6 months to a year and 18 months of these things, there are these crazy price appreciation cycles that happen. So that's what this page shows, which is, 18 months after the first halving, the Bitcoin price returned 45x. After the second halving, it returned almost 28x. And after this third halving, it returned almost an 8x, which is really incredible returns in such a short period of time. If you go to the next page. And so if you graph that, this is what it starts to show, which is what is this price performance after each of these halving cycles. Now, why is that interesting? Well, it's interesting because on top of this halving, which theoretically, if history is a guide, we should see some price appreciation.
especially with the timing of the ETF, right? Because now that we have the ETF on Bitcoin, but also on ETH, the 12 months time frame will make it possible to have an even more amount of money flowing into our ecosystem. And that could have an impact on the Bitcoin price action. That could be really, really interesting to see.
Happen is we've commercialized Bitcoin. And we talked about this sort of as my big prediction for 2024, which is these ETFs are really going to allow Bitcoin to cross the chasm and have its sort of central key moment, right? And so if you apply the averages, and again, these are just averages, they're by no means predictions. Okay, so I just want to qualify that.
Yeah, this is not financial advice.
This is not financial advice. These are just guesses. Data. We took these and we applied it to the price of Bitcoin. And if you go to the next page, you start to see what could happen if you just take the average of the last few cycles. So because the first cycle was so extreme, and you start to...
so you're just doing cycle 2 and 3 here, to be clear.
Just the averages of cycle 2 and 3. And what you start to see is some really meaningful...
Because you don't want to take into consideration the bull market that lasted during the COVID cycle, which was like an historical event. And you don't really want to predict your future investment based on that kind of setup, because there is a high chance that it's never going to happen again.
When I talked to Wences about this, how he explained it, which makes a lot of sense to me, is there are a lot of countries that will never look at Bitcoin credibly, even if they support it. The US may be one of those, but there's an increasing body of countries that will become dual currency, and they will look at their local currency, and then they will look at Bitcoin, and they will say both of these two things are needed. One, when you're transacting on a daily basis for random goods and services. And two, when you need to buy a permanent asset that needs to have residual value, you'll use something like BTC. And I think that's a very powerful concept. And if you look at what this price chart could indicate, is that if this thing starts to get to these levels of appreciation, it is going to completely replace gold and start to become...
Which makes sense in a world where people are born with an Instagram account and live stream on YouTube. Why do you want to own gold when you have Bitcoin?
That has transactional utility for hard assets. And I think if you marry that with this worry that some folks have about dollar debasement, you start to see some really interesting opportunities. So I just thought that this was a interesting thing that he here's our disclaimer, interesting thing that he put me on. I thought I'd share that with you. I'll publish this on Twitter, but that's your crypto corner for the year, folks.
I think it's really interesting how the crypto community is getting organized into basically a lobby to advocate for it.
That's Web3 utility. We still have to make noise on Twitter for people to hear about us and show us that the industry is not insignificant anymore. And also allow people to elevate their financial freedom.
It's interest because
it's this lobby in America. Did you know that?
Are you sure, Chamath? What about the NRA?
They've been so targeted over the last few years because Gensler and Warren have been on a crusade to basically make crypto illegal or drive it offshore. Well,
which is a big mistake, bro. Bye, Gary. Bye, Warren. Warren. You down. In November. Ciao. Peace out. It's going to be fun.
Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And now the crypto people have basically had a political awakening and realized they have to get involved in the political system. Yeah. Just as a matter of defense, self-defense.
Shout out SBF. He was a pioneer.
Well, not like that. I mean, that guy
he was dropping money on everybody. Yeah.
Did you guys hear this?
To basically push for regulatory capture. Remember?
Yeah.
Did you guys hear this rumor that SBF was going to put $1 billion into the election and convince Tom Brady to run as a Republican?
And give the $1 billion to Trump.
Oh, sorry. Give the $1 billion to Trump.
He was going to give Trump $1 billion to not run.
Okay.
And then get Tom Brady to run. I mean, this person had delusions of grandeur. He thought he was a Jedi Knight. And
that would have been funny as fuck, man. If that shit would have happened, damn. If true. We never know, right? Oh my God.
He's like literally in Jabba's palace right now. I don't know what a lunatic he was. I mean, talk about delusions of grandeur, Sachs. This guy thought he would just drop $1 billion and convince somebody not to run for government. I think we're gonna get a regulatory, back to the young people we talked about in the previous story. The reason they're attracted to crypto is because it doesn't have government control. And since if you don't trust the government...
And because it's easier, like you don't need to go to your bank at 2 p.m. on a Saturday to make a transfer. It's way easier, bro. Yeah, Kingfish, right? It's a story, right? Those guys are connected. Like, okay, they know shit. They are the real cabal.
And you see the government over and over and over again cover things up or the grift or make decisions that are not in your generation's best interest, why wouldn't you opt out of their financial system? And you know what? There's a lot of them, and they're getting organized. To your point, Sachs, I think we're going to have a crypto framework, and it's worth probably 5 points in this election. What do you think, Sachs? How many points is being the pro-crypto candidate worth in this election? 1, 2, 3 points of votes? 4 points? It's got to be some significant.
It's hard to
if young people show up, it could be 500 basis points. I mean, young people do not show up to vote because there isn't an issue that they care about.
Correct.
This take is also massive, right? Because again, after the Malcolm and Frank video, it shows that the Web3 community and crypto is able to make noise around it. And when there is a topic that they care about, they will back up the candidate. So if Trump won the election because he replied to a question from a dead gen, the president will be massive. And Malcolm will make history by being the guys that elected president with one question. I have a hard time believe that only that event will make it happen, but that can play a big role. Let's see what they have to say about it.
But there's 50 million Americans that own crypto. 50.
Hey, Chamath, ChatGPT is telling me that only 14 to 20% of American adults own cryptocurrency. Maybe 50% is a lot. We will get that though.
Okay, so if 10% of them are, like, let's say that's their single issue, that's 5 million votes.
No. There's a plausible case where 40 million of those folks show up because you're talking about a structural part of their wealth creation, right? So, for example, President Biden talked about giving people a head start by eliminating their debt. That's a narrow issue. And the reason it's a narrow issue, there's just as many people that don't have debt and just as many people that paid off their debt. And it creates a lot of haves and have-nots, right? And there's all these rules around who will get the debt relief, et cetera. You end up touching 4 or 5 million people maximum. But if there are 50 million people who have now decided to have at least a hedge against the establishment and the traditional financial system, and you are threatening to take that wealth away, I could see how 80% of those folks show up to the ballot box and say, all right, which one of you will just leave me alone? And if the answer is President Trump, then they're all going to vote for President Trump.
I think this is like such a great issue for political candidates to embrace. And it's just such a simple framework. I've said it a dozen times. Create a sophisticated investor test. Let 1,000 flowers bloom. People can make whatever crypto projects they want. But to buy it, you just have to take a simple test like a driver's license so that you don't risk your entire net worth or whatever. If you do, you're an informed buyer of crypto. Just make us.
We don't need a test. We need to let people being accountable for their choice. If you lose your money, it's on you. Does the government have a say to the way you want to use your money? For what? Why? It's your money. And if it's not, just let me know. Regulation if investing are protecting the status quo and protecting like white collar bankers and suits. With crypto, you can do what the fuck you want. Just let us live and invest in every fucking monkey JPEGs on internet. And if we lose money, that's our fault. That's it. Like, you can protect everyone for getting homeless because they paid the house on red, where the story could have ended differently anyway. We have to learn accountability.
Sophisticated investor test, and let's move on. Chamath, just since we're in Crypto Corner, before we leave Crypto Corner, when is my ape going to be worth money again? When will my ape go back up?
Never.
So my ape's not coming back. Okay, so I guess I shouldn't have done that.
Ouch. At least DGOT can come back to 1,000 soul, at least, please. I don't care about the apes. I don't have any, but DGOT make it happen to 1,000 soul.
Wait, how's Saxcoin doing? We had Saxcoin and we had...
Coin went crazy, but that was a pump and dump scheme that we had nothing to do with. I will never sell you a coin until I do. I just want to let everybody know that. If you get a DM from me, I am not selling J-Coin until you hear it first. I would literally do an angel investing coin immediately if there was a framework for it. It would be the greatest idea ever to have like a J-Coin and I could just like put it into startups and then people could buy and sell it and be like this ongoing evergreen venture. Where's my JDApp?
That's massive. As soon as we have the regulation for that, if we can have business investors coins and we tokenize then business angel performances on the free market like crypto, that would be awesome. Can't wait for that day. But it will come maybe if Bitcoin is going to 500,000.
I love DAOs and I love the idea of the angel investing coin, but man, a startup coin would be brilliant.
Yeah, the Jason coin is basically at zero. It was worth
that. It's down to $8,000.
Yeah.
8,
to be clear, I didn't have
$8,000.
anything to do with Sax coin either, but I was more amused by it than anything else.
Yeah. Well, my friend decided to tell everybody he was going to buy some and then straight to the moon.
Yeah,
it was pretty funny. It's hilarious. I have some. We've only bought crypto twice. We have some Doge, which I bought during like the Doge phase a couple of years ago, and then my wife presently bought Bitcoin, at a very low price when everybody was talking about it around Thanksgiving. And her Bitcoin went phenomenal, and my Doge is at break even now. So I've spent 2 years just on the pendulum. But who knows? Maybe Doge will become a thing again. I love Doge. All right, we have a bellwether of sorts here. Salesforce.
Wait. I don't know if Jason had Solana before, but I don't know if you remember, they made a tweet like 2 years ago when they were talking about Solana and they're laughing at it because they were dumping the token at 250. So yeah, I don't know if Jason had that, but I clearly remember that tweet. But anyway, if the analysis from Chamath is correct, that means we will have the same kind of cycle that before, where Bitcoin rallies to 500,000, and then we should be able to have altcoin and other assets to fly up a little bit after. It will be definitely interesting to see the price action of Bitcoin post-halving in the next 3 months, because we are now in June. So it was a little bit like less than 2 months ago. Okay, so we still need to wait for 4 to 6 months to see what's going to happen next. But if you want to make some money and never touch it again, maybe it would be sweet to increase your exposure on Bitcoin and then roll it to Solana before the altcoin season starts. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the All In podcast. You can find the link in the description if you want to have this information directly. But if you don't and you prefer a little sweet analysis, subscribe to these channels. We just launched, so we need more people over here. And thank you so much for Kingfish for showing up in the streams. It's always cool to see you in the chat. If you want to participate while I film those videos, you can subscribe to the Decoder channels and become YouTube fans. And again, thank you so much for watching the video until the end. I will see you tomorrow for another video. Enjoy the rest of your day. Touch grass, take profit. Bye-bye. Peace.